Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. My name is Shayla Pettigrew, and I am one of the 4K managers for South Carolina First Steps. This will be our fourth offering of Ready for Kindergarten Live, an informational session for parents and those who help parents to help children feel more confident about starting kindergarten. Now, for our teachers who are joining us today, SE Endeavors credit will not be offered for this session. We're glad that you're here. This is really a big moment for many children. It's their first time in a structured school environment, and for families. It can bring a mix of excitement and maybe a few nerves too. The good news is this: a strong, positive start to kindergarten can set the tone for years to come. And the fact that you're here today means you're already taking an important step in supporting your child's success. You hear people talk a lot about being ready for kindergarten. And yes, age matters. If your child turns 5 by September 1st, they're eligible to start kindergarten. But readiness is about so much more than that. It's about things like being able to follow directions, express needs, trying new things, and being able to bounce back from hard situations. Every child develops differently, and that's okay. Kindergarten is designed to help children grow. I mean, it's in the name, kindergarten, it helps children grow. So instead of worrying about whether your child is ready enough, think about how this year will help them become ready in all kinds of ways. One of the most practical things you can do is register early. School often starts registration in January, and signing up early helps your school prepare and helps you avoid last minute stress. Now, it's not too late to register, so you'll typically need a few documents like proof of age, immunization records, and proof of residence. If you're unsure what's required, reach out to your local school district. They can guide you. Getting this step done early gives you one less thing to think about as the school year approaches. Another helpful step is getting familiar with your child's school, knowing where you're zoned for. Many schools offer open houses, tours, or meet the teacher events. These are all great opportunities, not just for you, but also for your child too. Even something as simple as walking through the building or seeing the classroom can make the first day of school feel less intimidating. And when a place feels familiar, it feels safer. And that can make a big difference for a young child. One of the biggest indicators of success for kindergarten is something very simple: showing up consistently. That is why attendance matters, even in kindergarten, because learning builds day by day. You can support this by creating a consistent routine at home, things like regular bedtime, having a calm start to your day, your calm mornings, and preparing the night before. All help set children up for a good day. And of course, life happens. But aiming for consistency really helps children feel secure and ready to learn. This is such an exciting milestone. So don't forget to celebrate. That celebration doesn't have to be big or expensive. It could be a special dinner, a first day of school tradition, or just taking photos and talking about what to look forward to. When we celebrate these moments, we send a message to our children: this matters. You're growing, and we're proud of you. When people think about kindergarten readiness, they often think about letters and numbers, and those are important. But just as important are things like curiosity, confidence, and independence. You can build these skills in everyday moments. Talking during car rides, reading together, letting your child make small choices, or encouraging them to try new things. The resources we provide are meant to make this easy and fun because learning at this age should feel like play. One of my favorite quotes is play is work for children. And so, as we wrap up this first section, I want to leave you with this. Kindergarten is a big transition, and it's normal for there to be a mix of emotions: excitement, uncertainty, maybe even a few tears along the way. And that's probably for parents too. But what matters most is your support, your encouragement, and your presence. Your belief in your child is what carries them through. If you're looking for more tools and support, we encourage you to visit kindergartenreadysc.org. It's a great place to find your local school and explore additional resources. Now, let's take a moment to learn from some real experiences. We've talked about what to expect and how to prepare. But one of the most valuable things you can hear is from people who support children and families every day. Our panel brings together a pediatrician, a children's librarian, and an elementary school principal. Each of them bring a unique perspective: health and development, early literacy and learning, and what it really looks like inside of a kindergarten classroom. This is a great opportunity to hear practical tips, honest reflections, and encouragement from experts who work closely with children at this important stage. As you listen, think about your own child and what questions come to mind. I want you to use the Q&A box to ask those questions. We will take a few of your questions at the end of our panel discussion. So with that, I'd like to invite our panelists to join us. And let's start with introductions and let them each share their unique perspective on kindergarten readiness. Dr. April Barnes, would you start us off?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Dr. April Barnes, pediatric medical director and general pediatrician at Cooperative Health. I've been a pediatrician for the past 13 years and pediatric medical director for the past 5 years. So school readiness, in my opinion, is not just about academics. It's about a child's willingness to learn and try new things. So for school readiness, I use a simple stick figure framework. There's a body, there's a head, and there's a heart. So the body represents physical health, and the foundation of that is sleep, nutrition, physical activity, and routine medical visits. And those things provide the fuel that kids need to be able to learn and to focus. Establish routines early. Schedule a well visit before school starts and support independence through um, simple self-care skills and easy to manage clothing and supplies. So healthy bodies fuel ready learners. The head represents cognitive development, and that grows best through hands-on experiences and reading. Digital learning, so apps, YouTube Kids, things like that, they can help, but they need to be connected to real life experiences in order for them to really stick with the children. Tools like Common Sense Media, which I put on the hyperlinks for parents, can help guide you to high quality resources. And remember, from screen to scene, these things need to be modeled in real life in order for them to stick, like I said. Finally, the heart represents social and emotional development. So, attention, cooperation, impulse control, and managing emotions. Most parents think about cognitive development when it comes to school readiness, but I have found that the social and emotional development really are the foundations that help kids to be more prepared for school. So your child's temperament really matters. So are they a child that is very excitable, very adaptable, a child that's kind of shy? So those things are important to think about when you're tailoring the preparation of your child for school. Think about that in terms of easing them into transitions. So exposure, going to the school, meeting the teacher, modeling that it's okay to be in a new environment. I know it's hard for parents that are letting go of their babies to go to school, but modeling the fact that new experiences are fine, it's a good thing. And also providing reassurance to them that even though they're going to school away from you, that you're excited about hearing about, what has happened during school. So strong hearts build confident leaders. So when we support the body, when we engage the mind, and when we nurture the heart, we prepare children not just to start school, but to thrive in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barnes. Now let's hear from Anna Brannin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Brannin. I serve as the Youth Services Consultant for the South Carolina State Library. I have been a reader my whole life and a librarian for as long as I could be. And so, of course, one of the things I think that is so crucial for kindergarten readiness and success in kindergarten and beyond is reading. Yes, it's wonderful to try and instill a love of reading. But when we think about reading and understanding what we're reading, we read our whole lives. We'll be reading job contracts and car manuals and recipes and nutrition labels. So reading is not just about the joy of reading, although that's important, but being able to read and understand what we're reading is crucial. A study years ago that was done with 3 to 5 year olds found that those 3 to 5 year olds that were reading at least 3 times a week were twice as likely to be able to recognize letters and to recognize sight words and to understand the context of what was being read to them. So reading is one of the really best things you can do. If you are looking for new books to read, or if you're maybe reading the same book over and over and over and you need something like it, there are libraries in every county of South Carolina, and in those libraries are staff who are willing and ready and excited to help you find books for your little ones. And not just books. Libraries, of course, our foundation is books. That's what we're known for. But if you walk into any library today, you'll see that it's so much more. We're so much more than just books these days. We have wonderful programs that are geared for children. We have programs that are geared for parents and caregivers. We have resources. We are connected to people in our community, individuals and organizations. So if there's ever anything you're looking for in terms of getting your child ready for kindergarten, a library is a wonderful place to start. I can't wait to talk more about that.
Thank you so much, Anna. And now let's hear from Kelli Overcash.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start by saying I am Kelli Overcash, but this is actually very personal to me because I'm getting ready to send my first grandson. He is going to 5K. So everything that I share with you today is actually what I'm already sharing with my daughter, and we're going to see how that plays out because it's not going to be an easy process and it's very emotional. And so there's nothing perfect that we're going to say this is what fits every child. But I have been a middle school principal for 9 years and then was able to move to my hometown, Kershaw Elementary, for this is my ninth year at Kershaw Elementary. And it's a Title I school. And so we have kindergartners coming in from every level. And I think I'm supposed to tell you that I am the South Carolina Principal of the Year, but I will tell you, I take no credit for that because if you hear nothing from me, it is that we are all in this together. And so, from my perspective, the biggest thing I want parents to hear or teachers that are with us, it takes every one of us asking questions and communicating and not being afraid to stand up and advocate for our children as we're moving through any type of transition, whether it's just into kindergarten or whatever grade we're going to. But it's going to take all of us. The biggest thing, though, that I want to share with you before we dig into questions is that kindergarten is not like it used to be. I literally attended kindergarten 50 years ago. I don't want to go older than that. 50 years ago. And so it looks very different than what it did. I thought it was brilliant because I could spell Kelly and that was really just straight sticks. Now we're not just learning our ABCs and our numbers. I want everyone to understand that we have such a job to prepare the kids for the transition because what used to be what used to be first grade standards are really actually now kindergarten. So it's been bumped down. The kids haven't changed developmentally, but what we've expected them to do has changed. So we have a lot of work to do. And as principal, I want to help prepare the kids. I want to teach them confidence. I want to teach them courage. I want to teach them excitement about learning. But at the end of the day, one of my biggest jobs is to deal with parents and help them be educated on what we need to do and help them understand the differences and how your child as a kindergartner is going to learn how to not only recognize letters but to put sounds with it and to manipulate those into blends and phonemes and to manipulate that into words. And then those words become sentences. And kindergartners, I literally read a paragraph this morning from a kindergartner. So I want you to know we don't panic when I say that, but just know that we've got a lot of work to do on that forefront and a lot of questions to ask of your school as your child is preparing. One thing I'm going to ask you to do just as a principal, if you hear me say nothing today, I am going to beg you to take your children off of those long periods of device times because from my perspective, even in a 9-year span, the behaviors of children have changed. And it's not necessarily a child's fault. It's that literally their brains are developing differently. This is very, very vital time for their brain development. And so as a principal, I'm seeing a lot of working memory issues. The more screen time, the less working memory, the more screen time, cognitive delays, developmental language delays, impulse control issues, attention issues. So the kids are really struggling to come into a traditional setting. Of course, there is technology in the schools, but we have them playing and collaborating with their peers. But there are times they have to just sit and listen. So today, I hope that you'll ask a lot of questions about how we can support them coming into a traditional school setting and being prepared to listen and learn, how to react when they don't get their way, how to follow 2 to 3 step directions, and how really to grow their language so that their language comes from real world interactions and not just from hearing words on a screen. So my whole soapbox is not about that. But at the end of the day, I really want parents to know schools are in this for you. A lot of times, as a new parent coming in, we know how to prepare the kids, but we really want to prepare the adults too, because it's going to take that team of adults and students and children to really grow that courage and to really grow that love of learning that both Dr. Barnes and Miss Brannin talked about. Like all these things go together, but the parent piece has to be there too. And parents have to advocate, ask questions, and set these routines in place. So let's talk about that when we get to the questions. I just hope we can give you some specific information to support that.
Thank you so much. I mean, we have such an expert panel today, and I'm excited to get into these questions. So I do have a couple of questions for each of you. Dr. Barnes, as families are getting ready for kindergarten, why is it so important to schedule a well child visit with your child's doctor or a local health clinic? And why does timing matter?
So timing matters because some of these things that are necessary at the well visit take a little bit of time. So immunizations, getting a shot record from your medical professional, that sometimes takes time. You can't always get that the same day. So that's one thing. But also there are potentially school forms that your child might need if they have chronic illnesses. And so giving the clinician time to write those forms and all that kind of stuff, all of that is necessary as well. And for families that don't have health insurance, insurance or have Medicaid or things like that. There are federally qualified health centers, such as Cooperative Health, that do see people regardless of their ability to pay. And so there should not be any excuse for not going to a well visit and seeing the clinician. But also with the well visit, we find issues with hearing, issues with vision. Those things can affect a child's ability to learn and focus. Also, developmental issues. Those are big things that kids come in for their well visits. And so there's a whole lot of things that we're looking at a well visit, and doing it ahead of time allows us to put some things in place if they're necessary for a child that may be behind.
Such great information. Thank you. Another question for you, Dr. Barnes. Starting school is a big change for little kids. What signs tell you that a child is ready for that transition? And what might tell a parent is worth a conversation with their doctor?
So, preparation for school, your child needs to be able to separate from you. That's a big thing. For a few hours a day, they need to be able to be okay without you there. And so, that's something that you might need to work on with your child if this is their first time going to school. Also, being able to be a little bit independent. So, can they dress and undress? Can they feed themselves? Can they go to the bathroom? Those things are helpful in terms of their confidence in starting school, because kids can be very self-conscious if they can't do the things that they see that other kids do. Another thing is their speech. So, kids are still developing their speech. They have still things that they're working out, but the ability to communicate is also really important. And I find that kids that have speech delays often have issues with focus and behavior issues because they cannot communicate. And so those are just some of the things. If you have a concern about your child's development, looking at how other kids interact, if your child doesn't have the ability to play with other children, doesn't like other children, those are just some things that you should look at and talk to your doctor about, because they might indicate some issues. They might not. But it's important to talk to a professional to get their opinion about what these things mean for your child.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And now for Anna Brannin. A lot of parents feel pressure to have their child reading before kindergarten. What do you want families to know about early literacy? And what are some simple ways to build those skills at home?
The great question. It is okay if they are not reading yet. I remember kindergarten and having a letter each week and the joy of that and learning that with my peers. So it is okay if they are not reading yet. Early literacy can be a term that is maybe a little scary or overwhelming if we aren't already in education or familiar with it. And early literacy does not mean being able to read and write early. It means being familiar with what reading is and what writing is. And there's actually 5 early literacy practices. So it's read, write, talk, sing, and play. So anytime you're reading with your children and talking with them, and combining those other early literacy practices, you're already doing great work to prepare them. When I read a picture book with young children, I love to really be almost methodical about it, but still be very natural about it. So I have a few examples to show. So I love to point when I'm talking. So when I'm saying the title, Press Here by Arif Toulay, and I'm very intentional with pointing while I'm talking and asking interactive questions and getting them engaged in the book. So that is a great thing you can do. And if you're ever nervous about that or feel like you're running out of tools to do at home, again, libraries have wonderful resources, things that you can bring home with you and do, or things that you can do at the library. So on the handout, there's 3 links I provided, and the last one says SCSL, which is South Carolina State Library, literacy materials. And so those are publications that we have put together that are all focused on early literacy, and our public libraries throughout the state can request them, but you all as individuals are welcome to request them too. You can request one of each, and that's perfectly fine. One of my favorite ones is Early Literacy on the Go, and it's a lot of fun activities you can do in the car with your child on a road trip, safely, of course. If you're the only driver, look at it ahead. But there's just so many things you can do, reading, writing, and again, I love while reading to ask questions and point and make it a really interactive experience.
Those are great tips. And the library was one of my favorite places as a child. So, Miss Brandon, can you recommend a few books that are great for kids who are about to start kindergarten? Maybe ones that help them feel excited or less nervous about the big day.
Yes, I have a whole stack. I could have brought more, but I didn't want to carry too many books. And I typed these out, and either we'll put them in the chat for sure. One of my personal favorites is Truman by Jean Reedy. This is a really subtle one, and it's actually from the perspective of Truman the turtle. And so it's about Truman's child who is going to school for the first time. And Truman is very confused about where his owner has gone. And the whole book, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's Truman trying to escape to go find his human, but he's a turtle. So it takes him all day. And I'm sure you can kind of guess how joyful that ending is. This is a great one, Etta. A Little Valkyrie's first day of school. So it's a really fun, unique one. And I will say, this book is not as easy to find, but I wanted to point out one of the resources I listed on my handout is called Interlibrary Loan. I think this is something that I wish everyone was familiar with. Let's say you go to your library's catalog or to your library in person and there's a book you can't find. That is not a roadblock. That is not a stopping point. Most libraries have an interlibrary loan, either department or person, and that's just a fancy way of saying we libraries work together. So if there's a book you can't find at your library, it might be in the county system, but it might be that we can borrow it from a library in Florida or Ohio. So we librarians work together to get you the books you need. So if any of these aren't at your library, please don't give up. They're out there somewhere. Wimberley Worried by Kevin Hinckus is another fantastic book about getting ready for kindergarten. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Pigeon books, and there is one called The Pigeon Has to Go to School by Mo Willems. There's quite a few more. I don't want to take up too much time, but I will save one of my other favorites for last, which is A Balloon for Isabel. And this is actually about Isabel at the end of the school year. So this is not as much about the beginning part, but it is about after her first year, and there's a celebration. But Isabel is a porcupine, and at their kindergarten graduation, everyone gets a balloon. But the teacher isn't really too keen on letting Isabel have a balloon for obvious reasons. And there's a delightful solution. But I think that one's a fun one to show, like, not just how fun starting kindergarten is, but how fun the end of the year can be. And if you ever need more titles, my email is on the handout. I would love to share a, a list of books, and so would your local library. And there's so many great books out there.
Thank you so much for those suggestions. I think I just increased my list of books. And so now for our school principal, Kelli Overcash. Mrs. Overcash, you've welcomed a lot of kindergartners through your doors over the years. What are the most important things families can do in the weeks before school starts to help their child feel ready and confident?
Honestly, I think first and foremost is I need the parents to portray an excitement because the kids are going to mirror whatever the parents feel. Now, I know that the parents are going to be scared and they're going to be nervous. I know that, but we have to sort of fake that a little bit because the kids will mirror what the parents do. So first and foremost, let's get them excited. Let's start talking about. I always tell parents when you're going to bring them to this school, start driving by the school, start having conversations about the school. Run through the drive-through or where the buses drop off, but anything that they can do to get them familiar with the school. Now, it takes a little bit of time for us to assign rosters and teachers. But I certainly encourage parents anytime if there's an open house, if there's an opportunity to meet a teacher, they want to know that teacher, but if they don't meet the teacher, they still need to know the teacher's name because I want the child and the parent to start talking about that teacher name so that the child can start practicing. If Mrs. So and so, I need this, really just being able to communicate their need, but being familiar with that name and not letting that be a stopping point for them in school. Um, so if there's an open house, any opportunity, if there's not, call the principal. They will let you come by the school. They will let you take a tour. I had a family last year, they toured every week. So when the kid got here, the kid knew where everything was. And I was completely fine with that because we don't have a summer break as principals. Our building's open and we welcome little ones to come in and talk to us and be able to get to know us, anything that will help them with their confidence. But secretively, it's really helping the parents' confidence too. And we want that because again, it's going to go back to that relationship and that trust with the school and the parents. So parents, keep your eyes open for that. Go ahead and start them on that consistent routine. I know we've already addressed that, but getting them to bed at a set time. If your child is one that loves to sleep till 9 o'clock, please don't wait until August the 1st to begin waking them up at 6 a.m. We want to have a clear routine. If you're eating at school or if you're eating at home, giving them some choices. Let them now start picking out school clothes or what snacks might they want in their lunch boxes. But again, you got to make sure they can open those things. So it's really the little things that are going to throw the kids off a little bit. It's not actually going to be the learning piece. We've got to remove all those barriers so they can get to the learning. So one of the biggest things though that we've been referencing, of course, is the reading. And so that goes along with the just talk to the kids. That's where you can just incorporate your excitement and your confidence in the kids and just give them opportunities to try new things, give them opportunities to fail, but celebrate their effort and go ahead and teach them that we want to have a growth mindset. Everything doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to try. And so we want to encourage that mentality of I can try and I will do my best. So having those conversations. And lastly, just really addressing respect. What's happening at home when a child doesn't get their way? What happens at home might be acceptable. And I'm going to be quite honest, there are times that parents may giggle about it and think it's cute. And it's not cute by the time it gets to school. And then that completely sets up a poor relationship between the families and the school. And we don't want that. So parents just need to remember kids are going to watch everything that you say as a parent, listen to everything you say as a parent, but they're going to watch everything that you do. So how you handle distress, how you handle your worries, how do you act when you are angry, and how do you act when you don't want to do something? Those are all pieces that are going to come into play in school. And we don't want to have to reset every single morning. Well, environment says this rule is okay. School says this rule is okay. So if there's any questions for specific schools, again, I encourage you to reach out to the principal, go ahead and ask questions and get those rules set.
Such great information. Kelli, this question is also for you.
Okay.
Dr. Barnes kind of mentioned it earlier when she was talking, but what would you say to a family that has concerns about their child's development or whether the child is really ready for kindergarten or not?
Again, that goes right along with what we were saying. It is about trust and communication. I think a lot of times we'll have a student come in and we can immediately see that perhaps they're on a different rate of learning or there is a concern that has not been addressed. And when I talk to the parent, a lot of times maybe they didn't know because they have one 5-year-old at home and we have 112 in one school. So ask those questions, reach out. Is this where we should be? How can I support my child? Here is a concern. And I do think that starts with the pediatrician. And I think the pediatricians do a great job of communicating with us and saying, this is something your school needs to know. But what I want parents to know is they don't need to come to us thinking they're about to tell me something is wrong with my child. They really need to understand that every child that walks in this building learns at a different rate. They may get different supports. Again, that doesn't mean anything's wrong. It means that we've got to meet them where they are to pull them forward. Some kids are ready cognitively for 5K. Some kids need a little more time. So if there is any question whatsoever at this point, if they don't know the school teacher or the principal yet, ask the pediatrician, but then follow right back up with the school that they're going into and go ahead and establish that relationship. We have people in place to support, just like Dr. Barnes said, speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, learning disabilities. There's nothing that stops us from dealing with children. We just have to be on the same page so that we can get a plan and that all the pieces are in place to support that plan.
Awesome. That is definitely a great segue into our questions from our attendees because they also have a few more questions regarding development and just making sure students are ready for kindergarten. Dr. Barnes, one of the questions from our attendees is, my son is really shy And honestly, I think I'm more nervous about kindergarten than he is. How do I help him without making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be?
So, first, I would acknowledge his anxiety about school. And as a parent, I would also acknowledge your own anxiety about school. And then I would just do as much as I can to make him familiar with the school. So, going to open houses, talking to the teacher, learning the teacher's name, but also doing opportunities for him to have social interaction with other kids. If he's a shy child, one-on-one might be better for him than a big play date with multiple kids or a big birthday. So, knowing that your child is more shy, I would try to set up play dates one on one so that he can get comfortable with being with other children, making friends, playing. So, it's mainly about familiarity, it's about practice. Everything takes practice, and it may not happen the first time, it may not happen the fourth or fifth time, but just making sure that you don't make it a big deal, but just allow opportunities for him to be in situations with new people on a smaller scale, to prepare him is a good idea.
Awesome. And Miss Overcash, would you like to add anything to that response?
I would love to. I could not. She's A plus for Dr. Barnes, of course, for everything that she said. I think it is important. She pointed out that you start them in small groups. But I do think at the end of the time, you have to have those conversations that you might end up with 25, 28, 30 kids in one class, and maybe a teacher and an assistant that's going to be leading. So I think it's important, again, that's shared with the teacher. The teacher wants to know the personalities of the kid, and you really don't want them to have to figure it out, because you may lose a little time with the student if you're like, goodness, that's a shy kid. If I'd have known that up front, I could have gone ahead and started. Even it comes down to placement. If I, as a teacher, know a student's shy, I may sit him right by my desk for certain activities in the day, just so I can give that support as I see it. So it's just about knowing it, but again, being realistic. I think that Dr. Barnes was right too, is like, it's okay for mom to say, hey, I'm nervous too. But again, I will still repeat that if mom sits and cries 3 days and stays in the car for 45 minutes trying to get him out of the car and she's crying, I will not be able to get that child in the door. So a lot of times I will say this to parents: if you have a shy child, it is okay to hand them over to whoever is at car duty. We are going to take such good care of them, but sometimes we have to get them over the threshold of the door so that that separation is official, and mom will go her way and we will take the child, and then we'll communicate with them. Or they can reach out to the school and say, hey, can you just tell me, did little Anna end up okay today? Then we're okay to answer that question so that they don't have to worry all day. But it's going to be important for those parents to be able to separate and communicate with us any of those needs.
And Shayla, I'm sorry, I wanted to add on something as well that, and I'm a library kid. I love the library. Even as an adult, I'm in there all the time. But, there are opportunities for, reading time at the library where there are other children there that your child could also interact with. And it's not that they have to be with the other kids and talk with them, but they are with other children to get them comfortable with being with other children. So there are a lot of opportunities in the community for that are free for a child to be able to have interactions with other children, as you work your way up, first one-on-one, but then going into, the library or going into the Museum of Art has like a toddler stroll or something like that, where, parents come with their kids and, so there are all of these different opportunities that are fun that you can put your child into to allow them to have more interaction with other children.
And to jump in real quick on that, I'm so glad you brought that up. Depending on the age of your child, most libraries have at least a weekly story time. So like a smaller county that might only have one library branch might just do once a week. But I've also seen some of our bigger library systems in the state might have multiples at each branch, each like different days of the week. Some of them are even tailored to, like, I've seen public libraries that have tummy time just for their babies to encourage that early interaction and socialization with parents, among parents parents and the little ones. I've seen story times that are just for 2-year-olds, just for 3-year-olds. Sometimes it's for all those ages, 0 to 5. But even then, the librarians are so good that I've seen about making sure everyone is involved however they can be. They're also so good at, getting to know their kids and knowing which ones are a little bit shy and maybe finding ways to naturally bring them into the fold without putting too much spotlight on it. And I'm also so glad this came up because y'all have been talking about like routine and Ned's schedules. And I have seen some amazing story times that are only 20 minutes long, but you can tell those kids have been going because they know what's coming next. And it's so delightful because it's part of the program and for them it's fun, but it's also really helping them get ready for school because it's things like, okay, well, we finished this activity, it's time to put up our bubbles. And now so they're part of it and they're part of that routine. So yes, if you haven't brought your children to story times at the library, I'm so glad that came up. They're wonderful. And if you haven't, that's okay because summer reading programs are just around the corner. And please check with your public library for those programs. And so many of the libraries are so great at having a list of suggested books that relate to the programs that you're bringing your kids to, so you can still bring reading into it.
I tell you what, Anna, that was a perfect segue into our next question. One of the parents asked, I tried to read with my daughter, but she's just not that interested. Should I be worried or is that normal?
Nothing to be worried about. My sister was not a reader until she was in her 20s, and now she has more time to read than me, and I'm very jealous. We all find our love of reading whenever it happens for us. What I love to do with kids who are maybe not, engaging as quickly, again, it's okay. I personally love to find really funny, engaging books that they just can't help but admit that they like. So one of the ones I held up earlier, Press Here. This one is so fun for littles because it makes the children feel like they're controlling the book. So it says press here, and then when you turn the page, oh my gosh, you made a second dot appear. So like interactive books like this are really fun. And this one has been out for years. This is my favorite one. I give this anytime a friend or family member is having a baby. This is the one I gift. There's even a part where like the kids get to blow on the book and all the dots disappear. And so interactive books are really fun. And there's so many more of those. Wordless books might be good for different, everyone's different. So wordless books are great because you can encourage your child to help create the story based on the pictures, which is also a really good practice. David Weisner is kind of, in my opinion, the king of wordless books, but there's so many more out there. But Flotsam is a great one. He also did Tuesday. Again, so many more. Rhyming books I love because that natural rhythm, you can't help but capture kids' attention when it's a fun rhyme. So The Gingerbread Man, Loose in the School is one of my favorites. And if they like The Gingerbread Man, The Gingerbread Man has so many more adventures. There's a St. Patrick's Day one. There's, I think, a firefighters one. So sometimes it's just finding a fun character that they might connect with or be delighted by. And then funny books, like I mentioned. Shark versus Train is one of my favorite classics from years ago. But it's literally a shark and a train battling it out. And so it's very fun and interactive. You Will Be My Friend by Peter Brown is a really funny one to read. And then this one just came out a few weeks ago. This is called The Future Book by Mac Barnett and Sean Harris. And here's my plug for this book. I have 3 nieces. They were visiting recently. The 2 older nieces wanted to make a TikTok video. They don't have TikTok. They just, they're kids. They know these things, but they wanted to like try out a TikTok dance. The youngest one, the 6-year-old, willingly chose to read this book for the third time instead of trying the TikTok dance. And I was shocked and delighted. But it's just like a weird, funny book. So sometimes it's just that maybe you haven't found the right book yet. And again, that's what librarians are great at, is knowing, the books we have, the books that are out there, and recommending something.
Wonderful.
May
Now
I add
here's
something to that, Shayla? I'm sorry,
sure.
just very
Yeah.
quickly. I just wanted to say, if you have a toughie, I referred to my grandson earlier, and he likes to read signs going down the road.
Oh
He
yeah.
likes to read menus. Now, he's not really reading them yet, but he thinks he is. But if sometimes I'm struggling to put a book in front of him. He's very choosy on what he likes, but we're just trying to build that confidence in the grocery store. When I tell him to go get me a box of mashed potatoes, he has to be able to figure out, that M. And so
Hmm.
sometimes it's just a matter of almost fooling them into reading to build that
Yes.
confidence, and doing that in a real world setting where they really don't know that they're doing that. And then you can lead into those books, because every one of those books are fantastic. So thank you.
Yes. So do have questions for each of you. Um, or one that each of you can answer. Between work and everything else, it's hard to find time for all of this. If you could pick just one thing for families to focus on this summer, what would it be? And we can
I
start with Dr. Barnes.
Okay. So I would say the first thing or the most important thing parents can do is develop the routines necessary for that physical development that I was talking about. You know, those building blocks of nutrition and sleep and physical activity, and regular medical visits. Definitely sleep is so important for kids to be able to function. And people don't often know that kids that are overtired are more hyperactive, the opposite of adults. But if a child does not get proper sleep, that can affect their ability to be able to remember things, but also their ability to sit and just be able to focus. And so I like the three B's and an S. So that's bath, brush, book, and sleep. And very important if your child is on screens to end screen time at least an hour before that, because the blue light of the screens keep them up and prevent melatonin from being secreted. And so routine, routine, routine. That would be the biggest thing that I would push for parents.
I think I need that advice too. Uh, how about you, Miss Brannon? What is one thing parents should focus on this summer?
Read, read, read. No. But there's so many ways to do it. I love that adding a book to the nighttime routine. I think that's fantastic. And I wish I thought to bring a list of great nighttime books, because that's one thing I learned quickly babysitting years and years ago is you don't read the really fun books at night, because then they're just going to be all riled up. I think it's called Kitten's First Full Moon by Kevin Hinkes, is a really lovely, calm, but still sweet and fun nighttime bedtime book. And there's so many more. Again, I'd be happy to send you a list if you want to email me, or you can check with your local librarian. And aside from reading at night, which I do love, it's a great time to maybe set a fun goal if reading isn't already part of your activity. And there's different ways you could do it. It could be 10 minutes for a day, and it doesn't have to be books. I love, Kelly, that you mentioned, it could be reading signs around the house or the back of the cereal box. Like I loved reading the back of the cereal box as a kid, or the comics in the newspaper. So it could be for 10 minutes a day. It could be one book a day. And one last thing to mention in answer to this question, again, the summer reading is right around the corner, and I know for a fact that every library, every county in our state's library is participating, and it's also fun because not that we want to bribe them to read, but there are prizes, I know. So a lot of libraries will have fun, and I think a lot of us know that from our childhood, right? The nostalgia of the summer reading program, and you get the sticker after you read 5 books, and if you get 5 stickers, you get a little trinket. So if you haven't already visited your library, it's a great time to do so and sign up for the summer reading program.
Awesome. And Miss Overcash, what would be your one thing you feel parents should work on this summer?
I would say work on building their independence. I want them to be able to do some simple tasks. And oftentimes in the home, we take for granted we're going to help them every time they need it. And sometimes we have to say, hey, try that on your own. So I'm speaking of just putting the right shoe on the right foot and the left shoe on the left foot, and going to the restroom and flushing and making sure it's a clean area when you finish. But just simple 2 to 3 step instructions. If parents can practice letting them do things that maybe like you almost have to pause. I had to do it even as a grandma. I had to pause and go, my goodness, I'm helping him with everything. He doesn't need this help. He's got to learn to do this on his own. So it's almost taking an inventory as families to see what is it that I'm helping every time that I'm not going to be there. I can't always open that water bottle. I can't open that bag of chips. I need them to start practicing that independence so that, because if they come in independent, then they come in confident, and that confidence is going to help them in new situations. It's going to help them learning, and it's going to help them make new friends. So that would be my goal, is independence.
Thank you all so much. Thank you to the panelists for joining us today. We so value your advice and appreciate your willingness to share it. All right, so I have pop quiz time for our attendees. And don't worry, you've got this one. If your child is turning what age by September 1st, they can start kindergarten. Is it 3 years old, 4 years old, or 5 years old? I want to see you put your answers in the chat. Now, I trust you all answered that one correctly. Children need only to be 5 by September 1st. You all got that one correct, right? I'm sure you did. And so now that we've talked through the practical steps, we want to leave you with a few important reminders, because this journey isn't just about preparation, it's about perspective. It's easy to wonder if you're doing enough as a parent or as a caregiver. But think about all the small things you already do. Reading at bedtime, like Dr. Barnes said. Answering those endless questions, like Kelli Overcash said. Offering comfort after a hard moment. Getting those books, like Anna Brannin said. Those everyday actions are building your child's confidence and sense of security. They matter more than you might realize. So take a moment to recognize that you are already doing meaningful and important work. You're doing a great job. Kindergarten won't look the same every day, and that's okay. Some mornings will go smoothly, and others might feel rushed or emotional. That is normal. What matters most is consistency, continuing to show up, continuing to encourage your child, and keeping a positive outlook. Each day is a new opportunity to learn, grow, and try again. One of my favorite quotes is, do not unpack and live in that moment. You have a new day, a new opportunity. And this year, you're going to see so much growth. Your child will learn new skills, build friendships, and gain independence in ways that might surprise you. There may also be challenges. That's part of the process. That's part of growing. But we want you to celebrate the small wins along the way. I call those the glimmers. Celebrate those small wins, because those small steps are what lead to big progress over time. One of the most important things to remember is that you are not alone. You're not doing this alone. Your child's teacher, the school staff, and community are all partners in this journey, just as you witnessed today. Don't hesitate to ask questions, share concerns, or get involved. Communication is key, and schools truly want to work with families. Families are at the center of what we do. When we work together, children benefit most. In the middle of all the preparation and planning, try to pause and enjoy this moment. Kindergarten is the beginning of a long and exciting journey, but it only happens once. So take the photos, celebrate the first day, cry if you must, and notice the little things. These are the moments you'll look back on, and they go by faster than you think. So, on behalf of South Carolina First Steps and the Early Childhood Advisory Council, thank you so much for being here today and for the role that you play in your child's life. Your involvement, your care, and your commitment truly make a difference. We're excited for what's ahead for your child and for you. I hope you all have an amazing 2026-2027 school year. You did it. Thank you for being here with us today.